Fantasy and Some Flights, exploring the realms of beer, board games, books, and bourbon.
Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy and Some Flights podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Dalton.
And we are...
What are we doing tonight, Nelson?
We are apparently going to talk about Twilight Imperium. I'm having like massive deja vu right now because I feel like we already recorded this. So we've had some fun trying to get this episode recorded.
We have.
So this is the three-peat. This is third time's the charm.
It has been a journey to get here tonight, guys.
Because last time, or 2 times ago, we got like all the way through, almost like we were to the topic, and my computer decided to shut down and not save anything.
Yep.
So that was very sad. We packed up and cried ourselves to sleep. And then I came up again to record it, and there was just some scheduling stuff, and we weren't able to record, and so now we're recording, and I am really excited to learn about Twilight Imperium.
Yes.
Again.
It has allowed me additional time to prepare, so there's quite a bit of content to get through in the topic tonight.
Great. I'm excited. So
for sure.
Since there's a lot, let's go ahead. Let's quickly hop into our flight. So I brought you a beer. You brought me a whiskey.
You brought me a hell of a beer. So let's start with that.
As you said, it is stronger than a few wines that you had. So, but yeah, so I brought you Founders CBS, which stands for Canadian Breakfast Stout.
Yeah.
And so I actually didn't realize. I just went through like a pick 6, and apparently this is kind of a hard beer to find. So
yeah, it's one of the Founders like barrel aged series.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's aged in a bourbon barrel, which that's kind of the reason I picked it up, because I'm like, oh, cool, we can connect on this.
Yeah.
But it's aged in a bourbon barrel that specifically was previously holding maple syrup or aging maple syrup.
Yeah.
And so,
which is crazy. Like they'll use just for like background, they will often use little like 5-gallon or whatever size barrels that are used for like select bourbons. They will barrel maple syrup in it. So they can sell like, bourbon barrel maple syrup. Like that's a great selling point. They're not going to use the big like 55-gallon huge ones for maple syrup.
That's a lot of syrup.
It's a lot of maple syrup, right? So this is now this barrel's third use. It was bottled in beer last.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, you're going to get some, or you're supposed to get some taste of what you've had before. So you should be getting some maple syrup. It's a very dark beer. So you should be getting some maple syrup, and maybe that's contributing to the color. It's an imperial stout. So that's also contributing to the color. On the SRM scale, you're at like a 40 plus,
yeah,
right?
It's breaking the scale.
Yeah, it is black. Like it looks like a black hole.
Yes, exactly.
If I had to describe the color, it would not have any sense of the word brown in it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But you should be getting some maple syrup flavors, roasted coffee, and chocolate.
Yeah.
So it's 11.7 ABV.
I know. I'm having to oh wow, that tastes really good. Let's have another sip. And I'm like, wait.
Yeah. So it should be a pretty hefty one, and one that I'm glad that we're drinking now and not in June.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, where it's still like a little chilly out.
Founders describes this as transcendental, which I think is a little ostentatious. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's transcendental?
I honestly don't know what that word means in this context. Like, I don't know how that would. I don't know what that tastes like.
I think that's like across the continent. No, that's transcontinental.
That's transcontinental. I think that. Well, I guess we'll start out. This is absolutely a 4 Cheers beer. This beer is fantastic. And it goes through like very distinct flavors, which is really cool. Like it does not, to me anyway, taste like those 3 flavors that you mentioned of like maple syrup and chocolate and coffee. It doesn't taste like all 3 of those together. It tastes like maple syrup, and then it tastes like coffee, and then it tastes like dark chocolate.
Oh, very interesting.
Which is, to me, that is really cool.
That's impressive.
First of all, it just has like a long flavor profile for a beer. It's like I taste it, and that's actually one of the reasons I'm trying not to sip it so fast is because I taste it, and like probably 20 seconds later, like the dark chocolate is like starting to fade. And it's like a little bit alcoholic at the end, just a touch, because it's like,
but not 11.7?
Not, like way less of an alcohol taste than it should have.
Oh, wow. Sure. Okay, cool.
So yeah, I don't know. Those things like stouts are usually very straightforward in their tastes. And so this one, it's fun to have one that is like a little bit more complex, that's going through kind of these different flavor profiles over, like I said, over like 20 seconds of a sip. And that's pretty rewarding for a beer.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds really good.
Yes. So thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
of course.
Yeah.
If I find more, I'll pick one up, especially because it's a 4 Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. I will as well, but like you said, it might be hard to find. So.
But I was on Untapped. I was looking it up on Untapped, and I think the best. I found the best review. I think ever that I've ever read. I'm just gonna read it out. So it's from Brandon S.
Okay.
Shout out to Brandon S. if you're listening.
By the way, hi. I don't know how we found you. I'm so happy to meet you finally.
But he said, I think he said it best with his 5-star rating, and it says, quote, "Yep." So I think that sounds like what you're describing.
How many had he had when he wrote that review?
Half of one.
Half of one, probably. That sounds about right. Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. What am I drinking?
For sure. So yes, you are drinking Clayton Distilleries, and they call this their New York Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
The tiny little bottle.
Yeah, it's a little itty bitty. It's a half bottle. It's like a 375 milliliter bottle. And we had talked about recently. We talked about the difference between small batch and single barrel versus just like your general.
Yep.
And so this is a single barrel whiskey. That was one of the reasons I wanted you to try it tonight.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we talked about previously how like a single barrel is sort of like the master distiller's kind of like artisanal expression, right? They have a lot of, because they are only aging in this one barrel, it's going to have a uniform flavor profile. I'm like really struggling to say that, flavor profile. But it's going to have variance between like even, batches. So on the side here, it says like barrel number 3, right? Batch number whatever. And it can have like a little bit of that variance, but the distillers are generally trying to adjust the barrels up and down in the warehouse, right, to kind of get something very specific.
Is this is the one where they're like moving where it is, like
right.
the altitude? Not, I guess altitude's not a great word.
It is technically correct.
Yeah,
but
technically correct. They're moving it higher or lower to get the different temperatures and everything. Oh, that's
cool. Right, because it'll be warmer at the top of the warehouse, and warmer temperatures will generally, cause the pores of the barrel to open, and so more like liquid can get in, and colder temperatures force it out. And so that cycling in and out is where it picks up like the vanilla and all the like, those sweet and oaky flavors that you expect from bourbon.
Awesome.
It also has like it has a bit of a different mash. It has some barley in it, and so you might pick up some of like what you would taste from an unpeated like Scotch or even from like an Irish whiskey. It's just like it's just a little different. It's not like better or worse. Just a bit of a different taste.
Yeah, I think you described it well. Right? It's just, it doesn't taste like a bourbon. Right? It kind of tastes like a Scotch-ish, but not a Scotch. Right. It's a mix. It's almost like they blended the two.
Yeah.
So
I definitely agree. I think it has like a bit of smokiness that's coming from the barrel, which is like you would expect in like a bourbon versus a Scotch. And it has like some almost like a dark fruit skin type of like a tannin, like that little bit of like a bitterness that you get from like fruit skin.
Yeah.
I was kind of picking some of that up in it. But that's kind of what I noticed. What do you think of it?
We had this on the ski trip that we went on, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I had it then. I really enjoyed it. I really like this bourbon. It is a bourbon, right?
It is a bourbon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I really like this bourbon.
Yeah.
So, cool. I podcast.
You pay attention.
But what I find unique about it is that it's relatively like very upfront with its taste. So like when I taste it, I get a lot of the taste immediately, and then when I swallow it, there's really not a back end to it.
Yeah.
Which I find kind of interesting, which is nice. It doesn't burn, right?
Right.
So, like, I'm not watering this down or anything like that. But it's kind of interesting and different. And so I'm not sure if that's kind of a plus. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just different. It's not a plus. It's not a minus. It's just different. Like, I'm not getting that wide flavor profile. I'm getting that one specific flavor, and they do it really well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a Japanese whiskey in that sense. Like they kind of like they have their target and they kind of nailed it.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to describe it. I think some of those, what you're describing is like the back end, some of those like lingering flavors are generally subtler and will develop over time. So this is actually a 3-year age. So it's a straight bourbon, but it lists as 3 years, right? And I think it probably is maybe a little bit young. I think it probably could use just a touch more aging. I think I wonder, I don't know anything about Clayton. I wonder if they're kind of young. The fact that they bottle in 375 tells me that they're trying to kind of like make stuff nice and get it out of the market, right? They're trying to just make their name, and the 3-year age statement kind of maybe backs that up a little bit. So I think it's really good for its age, like a 3-year age and tasting that well, that good, I think is a real accomplishment.
I totally agree. Going into like the cheers, I would definitely give it like a 3.
Yeah.
Like 4 because it's, this small distillery in New York, right? So it's going to be kind of hard to find. But I mean, it may be a 4 cheers at that point, right? Like if I found it, I would probably pick it up just because it's kind of nice. It's a cute little bottle.
Yeah.
But like it does have a very nice flavor.
Awesome.
And without any burn. So
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, It's a 3/4 cheers, depending on my mood, I guess.
yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, like we said, we have a lot to cover in the topics. Let's keep moving here. Let's start with you because I feel like I'm always starting on the table section. So why don't you tell us what's been on your table?
Well, okay, so we talked about this already, like the two of us, because we recorded this already. But I do want to point it out that I have found a game that I love. I think that's maybe an understatement. I've spent a lot of time
it's
and
an
money.
understatement to say that you love it.
I have a binder. But okay, so it's Marvel Champions.
Yes.
So Marvel Champions is a living card game from Fantasy Flight Games. A living card game, I think we've kind of talked about in the deck building episode, where it's more of a deck construction, where you're building your deck before you start the game, and then throughout the game, you're going to be drawing cards from your pre-built deck and try and take on an adversary.
Right.
And there are a lot of these out there. There's Magic the Gathering is kind of similar. It's a collectible card game, but it's kind of the same
we call it a
premise.
trading card game.
Or trading card game. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
The living card game, basically, the differentiation there is that you know what you are getting when you buy a pack.
Right.
You know exactly what cards there are.
You're buying a box.
You're buying
like
a
an
box.
expansion,
Yep.
and it comes with the same cards for everybody.
Yep. So this game is a cooperative game where you take on the role of a superhero and you're fighting a bad guy.
Yeah.
And
All
so-
Marvel themed, like you said.
Yeah, all Marvel themed right now. They've stuck kind of in the Avengers realm, so there's no like X-Men or anything. But I assume that will be a future release. By the time this episode comes out, the new Guardians of the Galaxy content may be out, so I'm super excited about that because I love me some Groot.
Yes.
But I am slightly obsessed with this game.
Yeah.
So I played my first game 13 days ago.
Uh-huh.
Hello, my name is Dalton. So I played my first game 13 days ago, and since then I've played 31 games. So it's a fairly quick game. I've played every single game except for one single player. And I played a game with you.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So
I was there for that.
yeah, so single player, it's a great single player game. It takes only about 30 minutes,
Yeah.
so it's really easy to knock out. And I'm just kind of playing through all the heroes that I have, and it's just been a ton of fun because like building the decks, constructing, kind of coming up with like the thing that works to beat the villain that you're going against.
kind of solving that puzzle.
Solving that puzzle just makes my brain happy. Like I think that's the best way to describe it.
It releases the happy chemicals.
Yeah, exactly. So D20 Woodworking, one of our fellow board vengers, he also plays a lot of these living card games.
Yeah.
His favorite
I think he plays a lot of solo games in general.
He does play a lot of solo games. So his favorite is The Lord of the Rings, which is also published by Fantasy Flight. But he also really enjoys Marvel Champions. And he showed me and invited me to this Discord server, which is like the Marvel Champions solo league.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And so what this is every week they put out a new challenge where they tell you what hero or aspect, which is a deck building term, that you have to play against what villain, and then you like count how long it takes you, how much health you have, how well you've defeated the villain, and it ranks everybody. And so like we're in our second week now, and it has just been so much fun, kind of seeing how bad I am at the game compared to everybody else. But it's been a really great learning experience because they kind of told me you have to play this, you have to play it 3 times, and so that's a great way to start learning the game.
Yeah.
So if you do like Marvel Champions, if you're playing it solo, hit us up and I'll shoot you the invite to the Discord server because it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
But so I obviously really liked it. It's a 4 cheers for me. You played it once. What were your thoughts on it?
I mean, so first of all, co-op, it's going to knock it out of the park. Theming, right? It's going to knock it out of the park. It has maybe, I think on the surface, now that I've played it, it had some initial, like really obvious comparisons to Legendary. Right?
Yeah.
Where Legendary is a deck building game. So it will put out a river, and you're purchasing cards out of the river to
build your deck.
Yeah, to build into your deck. Yeah, exactly. And you are playing against an adversary and everything.
Yep.
But in the thing that was cool about it is, so Legendary, first of all, you're going to mix the heroes, right? I'm going to like buy Hulk cards and Spider-Man cards. There's going to be all these different cards that are available to me. It felt like you could play a much more direct strategy in Champions because I'm going to build the deck to do the support role or to do the offense role or whatever. And so I felt like I wasn't relying on that randomness of like what's just going to come up in the river and then come up in my deck, right? This second element of randomness of like, am I going to get what I need to buy into my deck, and then am I going to draw it at the right time?
Yeah.
champions let me kind of focus. Just you have this one element of randomness in what comes up, but also like your deck is pretty standard, right? In that, like, I may not draw the exact card that I need, but I'm probably going to draw a card that will accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. With some level of accuracy. It has the really cool effect where you are like either in your hero or you're in like your alter ego?
Alter ego, yeah.
You're basically like, I'm either Hulk or Bruce Banner. I played Hulk. So Hulk is fun. Hulk smashes things, as you would expect. Do you want to do damage? You can play Hulk. Hulk does damage. And so like that, I think, is really probably thematically where it is thematic, but it also meets its just like game mechanics of I get to pick something that's like I get to play Hulk and smash things. Like, it's very straightforward and very thematic, but it also mechanically it fits really well together. So yeah, I was a big fan. I would play a lot more of it.
Good. I'm glad because I do want to play a lot more of it.
Yeah, you're glad to hear that.
Yeah, cool. I will be playing a lot more, and I hope you join me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. What about you? What's been on your table?
Yeah, earlier today we played the Gallerist, right? Vital Lacerda. Vital
Lacerda.
Yeah, he's a hard name to say. A much shorter game than it looks like.
Yes, absolutely. That blew me away.
Yeah. I don't think we've talked too much about this game on the podcast yet.
I don't think so.
I think you would do a better job of describing it. Do you mind just giving a quick summary of the game?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Gallerist, you're playing the director of an art gallery. And what you're doing throughout the game is you are finding new artists, buying and selling their works of art while promoting them, trying to make them famous. And based on how well you promote them or how much art they have bought and or sold is how much art or how much like their pieces of art are worth now. And so it's a very kind of push and pull action selection game where you're trying to balance a lot, right? There's a lot going on. Because you want to win the international market on the left side of the board while also promoting the artist, hopefully trying to get other people to buy into your artist to pump those numbers up. And so it's a very nice. I love the game. I think I like it a little bit more than you do.
I think I will start off with I very highly recommend this game. I think especially like you said, it's action selection. It feels like a worker placement game, but it's not because you only have like one. I guess it's a worker placement game with one worker. Maybe you can think of it that way. But it's an action selection. If somebody else is kind of on an action, you get to kind of bump them off of it, but then they have an opportunity to maybe take the action again if they spend a certain amount of resources. It feels like a game that if you like games that are more on the solitaire end. It's not single player or multiplayer solitaire. Like there is player interaction, specifically with kind of like what actions are you blocking and are people bumping you off of them and that sort of thing. But it's a big euro, right? Basically, you're
it's a hefty one.
It's a hefty one, and which is interesting because like you said, there's only 4 spots you can go on the board, but each one has like 2 actions that you can select. So it feels like you're kind of trying to take between 8 actions. I think for me, the reason I say I highly recommend it is because I think for people that like that style of game, I can see it just being excellent for them. It's not probably my style of game. I think I like a little bit more player-driven, interactive type games. And also there's probably something where I didn't really click in my mind. Like my mind just didn't work that way well with it, So I found myself like getting bogged down and thinking a lot of like, there's something I want to do. Like, how do I do that? And just forgetting how the actions worked and stuff. And even though they're actually relatively straightforward and kind of on the board and in front of you, just for me, for whatever reason, I had a lot of trouble internalizing the game. So I think with multiple plays, I would like I liked my experience. I'm not saying I didn't like the game, but I think for the investment and for the time and for the effort I put into it, there's other games I probably would like more. Yeah. And so it feels like I've talked about viticulture in that way, where it has, it's a great game that I can look at it and say, this game is entirely mechanically sound. The Gallerist also awesome components. Like it has all this artwork and
so beautiful. 10 out of 10 for components on me. Like, I absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really well built and put together. And so like all of these things check out. It's just like me personally, it's not my type of game. So like my experience rating suffers for it. Gotcha. But more than I think than it would for other people like yourself, who like that's your type of game. It clicks well in your mind. That's the type of game you seek out. I think it's really if you are like Nelson, if you like, it's not an engine builder, but if you like engine builders, if you like games that are more feeling of a multiplayer solitaire type feel, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's also shorter than like a lot of those games can be, right? I think you said it falls in like maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours. A little longer for us because it was my first play and I was thinking a lot, but can be shorter. And so I could see how it could be very rewarding for a lot of players.
My wife had the same experience that you did the first time, where it is a lot to take in. Like it seems simple because there are 4 spots, but it's the strategies and everything that you have to kind of balance is very complicated. That does just get better and more intuitive the more you play.
Yeah.
I think I'm about 5 plays in now.
Okay.
I don't know, but I can see this being in my top 5. Whatever it is about this game, I love it. Yeah. And so I'm really glad that we got to play. I know it's not like your exact type of game, but I'm still
really glad I got to play it.
Yeah. So, and what I really like about it is that like it's a 2-player game. Me and my wife finished in like an hour 15. Yeah, which is
fantastic.
Well, you're listening to a board game podcast, so like that's not like a long game, right? But like to somebody else, it's like that's a long game.
It's definitely not a long game for like the level of complexity that this game involves.
Yep, I've played a couple of his other games, On Mars being like his newer release, and that game is, I think we average probably about 3.5. Which is a
hefty.
It's a hefty game. It's a way more complex game than the Gallerist. And honestly, going into it, that's what we kind of thought we were getting ourselves into was a 3-hour game. And so when we finished, our first play, I think was an hour 35. So when we finished, we were just like, I thought we were going to be doing way more.
Yeah. That was funny for me because you said like this game is shorter than you think, like by a lot, and you were doing a good job of coaching me through like we are like 4 turns or 5 turns. But I still had trouble piecing together like, okay, I hear that, I internalize that. I don't know what to do with that information. I don't know how that affects what I'm doing.
I'm not sure what to do now. Yeah, but I really like the components. We played it on our last monthly game night. So it was me and my wife and Felipe from our Discord, and I don't know what it was. I just got rolled on. It was bad, but they did really well and they had fun. So
they had a competitive game.
Yeah, and then I'm just over here like, ooh,
Nelson participated. Yeah, but our game was like that today, where like you didn't double my score, and I'm gonna hang my hat on that. It wasn't by much that you didn't double my score, but you did not.
I am a big fan of all of Lacerda's work that I've played. This is definitely at the top for me. Yeah. I'm on the quest, and actually I have bought like all of his like Eagle Griffin stuff now. So Eagle Griffin is the publisher that Lacerda uses right now, which has these like beautiful big boxes with these amazing inserts.
It is a pretty box and a big one.
So we'll talk about it a little bit more. I think we've only talked about On Mars and the Gallerist as his games, but we'll maybe next Fireside episode I'll talk about some of the other ones I've played. So we'll talk a little bit more, because if you are a fan of heavy games, I think that Lacerda is probably a great designer to check out.
So, one of the top right now, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anything else other than like Twilight Imperium been on your table?
Nothing else besides Twilight Imperium.
So I do want to point out that we have said before that we are not going to have any ads on the podcast.
Maintain an ad-free show.
I do want to omit something. Like when we said that, we did not realize that we could actually get paid for the ads,
and specifically that money can be exchanged for goods and services.
A lot of peanuts.
Also beer, whiskey, and board games.
And so with that being said, we sold out. We straight up sold out. And so
it'll be quick, it'll be painless.
It'll be quick, it'll be painless, but here you go. So we signed our contract. And we are actually now proudly sponsored, I should say, by Now Talking Shit About Your Friends.
Yes.
And so
reputable company,
beautiful. I mean, it actually really works.
It does. It does. So, we can say that the solution that they have, it does work.
It really does. So let's go ahead and play our first ad.
Yep.
And here you go.
We'll be right back. Put a song together and everything.
Hey there, Ryan here from the Gamecasters podcast. We put out new episodes about board games every other Sunday. Say, Jeff, do you hate yourself?
Yep. How did you know?
Oh, just a hunch. Hey, Natalie, do you ever look in the mirror and just say, ew, why?
I do.
Swell. Then have I got the solution for you two.
Is it Zoloft?
Right.
It's a revolutionary tactic the Chinese have used for centuries. Talking shit about people behind their backs.
Wait,
That doesn't sound right.
Well, nothing makes you forget about your own ugly face, flabby love handles, and astronomical credit debt more than cutting down friends and loved ones behind their backs for absolutely no reason.
I don't know, Ryan. Isn't that cruel and wrong?
Oh, Natalie, if lobbing terribly hurtful insults towards unsuspecting friends is wrong, then lock me up. Here, I'll show you. Nelson and Dalton suck, as an acronym, spells NADS. So double burn.
Oh, the hospital.
I already feel more attractive. You two give it a try.
Okay, well, here it goes. Did you see those Being Friends guys? They made a video bashing Mage Knight. I mean, isn't that just the board game beatdown from our show or what? Steal our stuff much? And nice beard, you look like a doofus.
Oh, right there, baby.
Nice, Jeff. Don't you already feel 10 to 15 pounds lighter?
Yeah, I do. It felt great.
Okay, Natalie, your turn.
Okay, well, I'll try. Date night dice? More like date night dick, am I right?
Whoa, pull it back, Natalie! And there you have it. As you can see, talking shit about your loved ones can really clear up that back knee you've been hiding from your girlfriend. Talking shit about your friends and loved ones in no way solves any issues other than making you feel less terrible about your own life for 5 minutes. If you must practice this behavior, please do so in the presence of a pediatrician, you big whiny
That was amazing. I love that so much. That was incredible. Oh, holy shit.
Oh, Natalie.
Oh, that was incredible.
Oh, I'm shedding a tear.
Yeah, so
Where do I sign up?
yeah, I don't know. I think there's an app.
Oh, man.
Oh shit. Hey, it's Nelson from the future. After listening to the amazing ad that the Gamecasters put together for us, we realized we never actually kind of explained what was going on. So just for your information, if you're not listening to this on the day it came out, this episode did come out on April Fool's Day, so April Fools. Okay, we're going to get back to the episode. Thanks. Well, now that we're back from a word from our sponsors, we probably will hear a lot more from them soon. But
Probably, yeah. Cheers to the sponsors.
Cheers to the sponsors. They put out a great ad.
Yeah, they did. Thank you.
So yeah, let's dive into it. Let's talk about Twilight Imperium. So I'll go ahead and give a brief overview of the game. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't make me do that.
I thought about it actually. I was like, I could ask Nelson to give the overview, but it would feel like a test, like a pop quiz.
Yeah. So I'm in control of the green ships.
Well, yeah, you can be.
Yeah. No, I think the last couple of games I was. So
Gotcha.
It's
a good color.
That's almost the
Good,
only
strong
rule I
color.
remember. So yeah. So Twilight Imperium, Dalton, your favorite game of all time, correct?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So I'm really excited that we get to talk about this game. I think we talked about
Yeah.
it in our last Icebreaker episode that I am not an expert at this game whatsoever. I've played this game twice in my life. I have looked at a lot of statistics because I think it's a phenomenal game. I really enjoyed my plays, but that's about where my knowledge ends.
Yeah.
And that is where you were at 15 years ago.
It's not quite that long. I think my first game I was like 15 or 16.
How old are you now?
Actually, wait, no. Oh, crap. I was 14. It was 13 years ago. Dang it.
Doesn't that make you feel bad?
I know, a little bit. That was like almost half my life ago. That's crazy. But yeah, I think like what we're kind of looking to do here, I would say actually off the bat, I have done a lot of learning in preparation for this episode. I thought I knew a lot about Twilight Imperium. And like in some sense, I know a fair bit, but have never really done this kind of like deep dive into competitive strategy. So this has been a really enjoyable experience for me. What we're kind of targeting with this episode is, okay, we're going to start from the base assumption that you understand the rules of Twilight Imperium. Maybe you've played a game or two, or maybe you are going to play your first game, and you are. Did you just put your notes away?
I don't have any.
That's just really funny to me that you don't have any. Nelson just like folds up his iPad and like set it to the side.
I'm ready to listen. Preach, preacher.
You should be taking notes. It's fine.
sir,
I
I'm
actually
sorry.
take notes for you and type them up.
Okay,
in show
good.
Notes, so you will have access to all of my notes. But I don't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, just that we are kind of coming in. Maybe you're like about to play your first game and you've watched a rules video or something. Like you understand the concept and the rules of the game. We're trying to elevate from like a new player to like a competitive player, but not quite a player who's like in competitions. Like there are Twilight Imperium competitions. We're not getting to that level of strategy here.
So basically what Dalton is telling you is that after you listen to your next podcast or this podcast,
Yeah.
your next game is a guaranteed win or your money back.
If you to collect that money, reach out to talking shit about your friends. Our sponsors, they also
they're
bankroll.
pretty great. So
yeah, they bankroll and back up all of our promises.
yes, yeah. All the money that we have made from this podcast has come from them.
That's accurate. Oh goodness. So that's why I kind of learned about it, right? It's like I would call myself like an experienced player, and like I win within like my circle of friends, my common like core group, probably like more than my average, right? If you say like a 6-player game, I have a 17% chance to win. Like I probably have a win percentage above that, but I'm not like epically winning every game I play.
Yeah, right. And like I said, I've played only 2 games. I have familiarity with the rules, but I'm not an expert with the rules. So
Yeah.
If I do have rules questions, I will be asking you. So because I do want to understand. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited. So
Yeah.
I guess like how do you win the game?
I think that honestly, like it sounds really stupid,
Yeah,
right?
no.
To ask that question. My first bullet point though is like, why, like how do you win the game? Like like it's such a broad, because it is a 4X game. It has a ton of content to it. It's very wide sweeping.
And what is 4X? Sorry,
Yeah, 4X.
I think we've talked about it, but I just want to make sure that everyone's aware
Absolutely.
of the terms.
Yeah, it's sort of like a type of dudes on a map game. Like it feels that way, but it is a different category. It stands for like expand. Let's see if I can do this. Expand, explore, exterminate,
Xylophone.
and xylophone. No, exploit.
Exploit. Yeah.
I don't think I said exploit. So if a game contains all of those components or all of those like mechanisms or themes, you could call it a 4X game. Like if you played like old civilizations like on the computer, like the computer game, like that would be a 4X game. This is one on a board. And so because it is so broad, I think you need to walk into your game of Twilight Imperium, and the first thing to think about is, even before asking your question of how do you win, you need to ask yourself what type of game do you want to have. Because you can have a lot of fun in Twilight Imperium and not win. And that's really important.
I've done it twice now.
Yeah. And I think it's because you have this like civilization building feel. Like it can be very rewarding, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I think that it feels very rewarding, and it's an asymmetrical player power game. So you have kind of a path to go forward, and everyone kind of feels different, right? You feel like you're playing a different game. And so I'm a sucker. There's technology, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yep.
But like the last time we played, I played like the necrovirus, which, if you attack someone, then you get to steal some of their tech, and that felt like a completely different game. I didn't win, but I had so much fun because technology in games is just something that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
like as a thing exploring in the game.
Yeah,
and so you can do that. You can expand. You can play defensive. You can play political.
Yeah,
and so that's I think it looks like a fighting game. Like we're gonna fight, and we've talked about this a little bit with Scythe. But there's so much more that goes into it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that it's kind of a joke. How do you win? But it's like also not super intuitive how you win.
Yeah, for sure. So I think walking in, like, think about, am I going to be necrovirus? And like the way that they get technology is they attack people. Like, is that going to be my game? I'm just going to pester everybody and get technology. If so, that's a lot of fun. Like, and have fun with that, just like play out that meme, of, like, I'm just going to be the ridiculous race that attacks everybody. And like, that's going to be my thing. And like, I have had a ton of fun. I'm going to build massive fleets and just throw them at people and get into these awesome space battles. You can totally do that. And like, sometimes that you can do that and win the game, but you can absolutely do that and not win the game. You can do it by making sure somebody else does not win the game if you want to. Point is, are you going to be competitive? Are you going to be cutthroat? Are you kind of come into like, I need to win this game? Or are you going to have fun? Are you going to be social? Are you going to build big fleets and throw them at each other? Or, like just kind of figure out what you want to do. If you want to win the game, if that's your answer, you can continue listening. Yeah. That's what we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about.
Awesome. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So how do you win? You win the game normally by scoring 10 victory points, which sounds like super low compared to other games. Like you won the Galactic with like 147.
Yeah, I did that in one turn. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like very easily. In Twilight Imperium, it's hard. You get victory points by doing big things with your civilization, right? So having a bunch of ships out, by winning important battles, by spending a lot of resources to show you have this just, enormous economy, things like that. And so in a normal game, you play to 10, you can play to 14. We're going to focus on 10 for a second. In the game, a typical game, and I think this is you talked in the Gallerist we just talked about, of it's important to understand the length of the game. I think you enter a game of TI4, like 4th edition Twilight Imperium, which is again what we're focusing on today, with the assumption it's going to take 6 game rounds.
Okay, that's actually a lot shorter than I would have guessed.
That is the main reason that I have lost the game. Like I have been
TI3 is a lot longer.
TI3 is a lot longer.
Okay.
I've been performing poorly in TI4 because of that. They sped the game up a little bit in game rounds.
Which is sped the game up. It's still 6 hours. Like
yeah, exactly.
Like
it's still 4 to 6 hours, can be longer.
Yes.
Like,
so it's not a short game whatsoever. But
right.
but that is good to know.
Yeah.
Like I think that's good to know about any game, but especially something like a 4X where you're building an entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
To ramp. And so if you're like, oh, I'm gonna hit my stride at round 5. That's probably not going to win you the game,
it's
right?
Too late.
Like,
it's too hard in Twilight Imperium to catch up. It can be done, but it is really difficult to have big swings past like 3 or 4 victory points. in like a
Okay.
single round.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so let's break that down a little bit. Like so I think the reason I bring that up, walking into the table, it's important to have an understanding of where my 10 points are going to come from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
If we're playing to 6 rounds, that means that 2 stage 2 objectives have been revealed. So just to review, in the way the game works, it will reveal 5 stage 1 objectives over the first 4 rounds. So there's 2, like at the start of round 1, there's just 2 on the board, and then it reveals 1 at the end of each round.
And you can claim 1 a
Per
round.
round, yes.
And there's a strategy card that allows you to take another.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
You
You do great.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
this
you
is
know how to
awesome.
play this game.
I'm gonna win the next one.
Absolutely. Right there, each of those are always worth 1 victory point. Okay.
Yep.
So there's 5 potential. That could be half your score.
Okay. Yep.
Right? Because you
Half
need
the
10.
score, yep.
There's going to be 2 stage 2 objectives revealed. It is typically really hard to score both of them. Like just because they're hard to get.
2 stage 2 over the course of the game, or in a typical 6-round game.
In a typical 6 round,
Okay.
because one is revealed in the 5th round, and then the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm following. Yep.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I did that right. Okay.
Yep.
Because the game can reveal 5 stage 2 objectives total. After that, the game just like ends.
Like all of you lose.
Yeah, you guys can't play. No, I think it's like the player with the most or something. It never hits that. So I don't actually know
Maybe
what
in like
happens.
a 14-point game,
Right.
It'd be a little bit more likely to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the other main place that victory points come from, you have 3 secret objectives. Or sorry, you have a max of 3 secret objectives.
I totally forgot about those.
Yeah, right.
And I think
Scored-
I forgot about those while I was playing. That probably didn't help.
and that's hard because this is, I think, as I've been researching, competitive players score all 3 in most games.
Okay.
Because they're points that are hard for other people to block.
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
You don't start the game with 3, but you can draw them over the game, and it's a maximum of 3 in your hand and scored.
Okay. How do you draw them? I'm sorry. Like.
No, you're
refresh me
fine.
on
This
that.
is good
Yeah,
stuff to talk about. You draw them off of Imperial also.
Which is the strategy card that you can take.
Yes. So as a short review, there are 8 strategy cards. They each will do different things. Imperial is the one that scores victory points. That's its job.
Okay,
Is to score you victory points. It does it in a couple of ways. One, if you own Mechatol Rex, you can use Imperial to score 1 victory point, just straight up. So that means if you have Mechatol Rex, you have Imperium, you use it, or Imperial, you use it, you get 1 victory point. What that means is most players will try to stop you from doing that because that is incredibly strong.
Yes.
You can also, if you don't have Mechatol Rex, you can draw a secret objective. I don't remember if it's 1 or 2, and I think you just draw 1. And then the secondary lets other players draw 1 as
Okay.
well. So it's sort of this indirect way, but like that's how secret objectives
Okay,
enter the
cool.
game is through the Imperial strategy card.
Can you discard secret objectives once you have drawn them, or like?
Yeah,
the
you can
3
draw
that you
past.
draw?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like if you have 3 and like all 3 are in your hand unscored, you can like draw a 4th one and
And
discard one.
discard. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
So that is an important thing to do. If you're
Yeah.
like, this is just unscorable, you can cycle them.
You probably want to cycle some and try and find something that is within a round of scoring, or a couple of rounds of scoring.
Yeah, so that's interesting. The way objectives are scored is like you mentioned, you can only score 1 per round. That's during the status phase. It's like the cleanup phase.
Yep.
You can score 1 public objective and you can score 1 secret. So yes, when you score your secrets is important. If your secret is something like have a certain amount of technology, right? Score that the turn you're going to win. Right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Keep it off the board. Don't let people know.
That's okay. That's
You know what I mean? Like score it as late as you can because there's a lot in this game of kill the leader, right?
Yep. that
There's a
makes sense.
lot of jump on the guy who's winning, like stop him because I'm like we're all going to do that or else like we all lose, right? And so having a little bit of control, like if it's something like kill a ship that's in a certain position or control a certain number of planets, you're going to have to kind of reach outside of your slice to do that. Your slice being like the game is a hexagon or the board is a hexagon. So your slice would be kind of like the pie slice of the board that's just kind of normally attributed to being yours.
Coming from Mechatol Rex and
Right.
expanding in a crescendo out. From
Yeah, exactly.
Mechatol
Like
Rex.
if
Yeah,
I just
okay.
divided it into, if we're 6 players, if I divide it into 6 equal parts, pizza slices, like this is my slice.
Yep.
If an objective causes you to reach outside of it, you might want to score it earlier, right? Because
Okay.
it's going to be hard to do. Like you want to get it, score it, and get it out of your way.
And then once you've scored it, you've scored it. You
Yes.
can't if you lose that positioning or whatever, you're
That's right. It doesn't matter. You
doesn't
keep the
matter. Okay,
point.
good.
It goes
Good,
to like
good,
the public play area, so everybody knows what it was and sees that you score it, and your victory point total goes up.
That makes sense.
But they
Yep.
can't keep it. They can't
Okay.
stop you. The other reason you might want to hold secret objectives is in order to score a public objective, you have to have control of your home system.
Yep.
That is not true for secret objectives.
Oh, okay.
So you can score secret objectives without your home system, which means that if somebody takes your home system to try and stop you from winning, you can still score a secret.
Okay.
So now we have 5 stage 1 objectives for 5 victory points. Each secret is worth 1 victory point. Now we're up to 8 total.
Yep.
Assume one of the 2 stage 2 objectives is scored. All stage 2 objectives are worth 2, and that's your 10.
I always assumed that you would have to score at least 1 or 2 from Mechatol to win the game. Is that are you saying that's not the case? Like do people win without actually ever scoring a Mechatol Rex point.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Okay.
I think
Interesting.
most of the time when you win, you will find another way to get a victory point. I like when I list that 5-3-1. I think that's a good, like, in your head, this is your starting position, right?
Okay.
This is my base assumption.
Yes.
But there are other ways to score victory points. Like you said, you can own Mechatol and you can activate Imperial. It's hard to do, but it can be done. If I'm doing that, that's one fewer public objective I need to score to win the game, right?
Okay,
Now I
yeah.
need 4-3-1 because I got one off of Mechatol.
Yep.
Mechatol also starts with the Custodians tile, which is like, they're basically like the Guardians of Mechatol Rex. You have to like buy them with 6 influence in order to like open Mechatol Rex and open the agenda voting phase,
okay,
right?
I remember something. I never got there in time, so
Yeah,
I
it is
never had
worth
to worry
one
about
victory
it.
point.
Oh, okay.
So if you are the person that removes the Custodians, that's one victory point.
And then you can score Imperial next time.
Yeah, if everyone let you keep it, or if everyone let you take Imperial, yeah.
Oh yeah. So you don't activate Imperial at the beginning of the turn. You activate it on your turn as an action.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah,
Yes.
so
I have to take Mechatol Rex and already have Imperial, and then I have to keep it for the turn round,
Yep.
Not the game round, but
Yep.
like a series of turns.
everyone else takes a turn,
Yes, everyone else takes a turn, and then I can activate it and score my victory point.
and that's 20% of your score right there. If you're able to do that.
If you're able to take the Custodian token for 1 and get a Mechatol point from Imperial, yes, that would be 20% of your score.
So you don't have to score a stage 2 objective.
Yeah, for instance, exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
And now you can see how the game might end sooner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no. Okay. Yeah.
If you're able to do that and score your 3 secrets, right? So
Yeah, it's cool to talk through this because like I was just the first time I played, I did not think about the objectives. I saw that the way to score points was to take that Imperial tile, which I think is 8, right?
it is. It's the number 8, which means that you go last in the round.
Yes. And I was just like, okay, I need to get Mechatol Rex, and that's how I score. I need to hold it and do it. And like for whatever reason, the objectives that were laid out just did not click for me as being as important as Mechatol Rex.
Yeah.
And so I did that the first time, and then I didn't play it for a long time. So the second time I had forgotten that
Yeah.
I learned that lesson, and I did that again. So like,
Yeah.
it was probably around 3 or 4 before I even scored my first objective.
Yeah.
Which is probably, well, it's obviously not a winning strategy, right? I did not win,
Uh-huh.
but it's good to kind of talk through that and see that okay, Mechatol Rex is like the Rome, right? Like you. Like that's kind of what the game is set up thematically to go after, but it's not necessarily what wins you the game.
Yeah, and it's certainly not required. And you cannot, I would say, you technically can, but you realistically cannot win the game by just scoring Mechatol Rex. It's too slow. The game's going to end in 6 rounds, and if you get the 1 Custodian, and if you miraculously scored it on the first round, and then the first 6 rounds, you'd only be at 7 points, and you wouldn't win.
Yeah,
Right.
and that right there, I think, is great information to have.
Yeah.
Especially for a newer player or an inexperienced player like myself, where it's like, okay, I need to focus more, and I love hearing this. I need to focus more on like almost an engine building or a civilization building, like build my structure, figure out how I'm going to score some of these public objectives that are coming up, rather than fight King of the Hill, because that's where I'm going to score my points. The public objectives are fairly intuitive, right? Like,
They're pretty straightforward, yeah.
and so do you have any examples of those?
Yeah, so there are, let's just talk stage 1 for a second. I
Yeah.
think this is a good place to transition to. Stage 1, there are 10. We're talking base game. Prophecy of Kings and expansion released more. Are you having a little more there?
No. Of course not. That would be irresponsible and dangerous.
Nelson's like, I don't have notes. I can just
Fuck it.
I'll just sit back and sip whiskey and talk about Twilight Imperium. I love it. This is my jam right here.
Same.
All right, so there are 10 public objectives. In terms of type, there are 4, 4, and 2.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I think I just I was distracted by my whiskey pour.
Fair.
10 public objectives.
Yeah, I should have said stage 1 public objectives.
Okay, so there 5 of the 10 will be
Yes.
selected. Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted, because there are going to be 10 face down public objectives at the beginning of the game. 5 stage 1, 5 stage 2. But there's a pool of 10 that could be
Yes.
potentially pulled from. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that because I don't think that I said that clearly. So
Okay.
yes, there are 10 stage 1, 10 stage 2. You're going to play with 5 of each.
Okay, perfect.
But again, the stage 2, you're really only going to see like 2 or 3 of them. Stage 1, actually, for both of them, just remember that it is 4, 4, and 2 in terms of categories, like types of objectives, okay?
Okay.
4 resource-based objectives, 4 board control objectives, and 2 technology objectives.
Okay.
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 So let's talk through what that means. Resources. It is something like just spend a lot of resources. So it is spend 8 influence, spend 8 resources.
Is that like on something, or just like during the scoring phase, you have to just discard 8 resources?
Yeah, exactly. You're basically just buying the victory point.
Okay, and you get resources by expanding your fleet, right? You're conquering new planets.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's where you get the
They come from
resources.
planets, and so I would have to end the round with like those planets unused.
Yeah.
And then I have to just like spend them on. It's like I think
Interesting. Okay.
the influence one is called Sway the Council. The resource one, which is like resources you use to, it's like what you use to build the ships and stuff.
Yep.
That's called Erect a Monument. Right. It's like I'm just spending my money that my civilization has such an incredible economy. I'm going to build a monument.
I am so awesome.
To us, right,
Yeah,
and to
okay.
me, and so it's that. Lead from the front to spend 3 command counters.
Okay.
Command tokens.
Which are like your actions, right?
Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
those little triangle pieces that little tokens that you spend to make your actions with. And so those are spend objectives. Spend objectives are great because people can't block you from them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right? I can always claim a spend objective.
Okay.
Because like I can go through and like with my home system and one other system and like I probably have 4 resources, or I can have just like a shit ton of trade goods stocked up because you can use trade goods to pay for that.
Oh, you can.
Yes, you can do
Okay.
that. And so like I can just have 8 trade goods and it's like there is not a mechanic in the game to take this from me.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
Right? So as
that-
long as I
that is
have
really
my
good
home
to know.
system, I can always claim that.
So that is really good to know because and trade goods. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like those are the mechanisms, like the currency in the game, where
That's right.
you can trade with people to get money.
Yep.
And they start out as something else that
They start out as a commodity.
commodities.
And the way it works is
Yeah.
if I have a commodity, it is useless to me. If I give you a commodity, it becomes a trade good.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have 3 commodities and I have 3 commodities, we trade 3 for 3. Now you have 3 trade goods, I have 3 trade goods.
And I think that is something that completely went over my head the first 2 plays, is how valuable trade goods are. Because I did not realize that they could be spent as kind of like a wild resource.
Yes. Yeah, they're a wild
And
resource.
so that's really important to know, is that if you have something that needs to spend 8 resources or something, that can also be trade goods. So you can wheel and deal
For
your
sure.
way to that victory.
100%,
point.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
The other reason you would so you buy it last for one because nobody can stop you. And so you want to buy things that nobody can stop you from when you're already ahead. Right?
Yes. Yeah, no, yeah.
That's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is things like influence, resources, trade goods early in the game. I want to be spending that. Right, I want to be putting plastic on the board.
Yes,
I
yeah.
want to be buying command tokens and doing things, and it is inefficient to like spend that to buy a objective early in the game when I don't have a lot of plastic on the board, when I could just buy it later.
Yep, it's the engine building
Yes,
mechanism.
exactly.
Like, I'd rather build my fleet and do everything that may score me another objective, and then worry about this one later.
Absolutely.
And so like, I think I know the answer, but just to make sure.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to score them in order, right? Like,
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you can score any of them that are out there.
Okay, cool.
And nobody can stop you. Like, again, the only way to stop somebody from doing that is by capturing their home system, from scoring a public objective. I would say if it is the only thing you can claim, then you need to kind of make a decision, because you do want to be claiming things.
Yeah.
Right? The point is, though, that during a round, every round you should sit down and you should say what not the first round, probably. It's like you can score objectives in your first round, but like you're probably going to go out so far outside of your way that you kind of have to know what you're doing. But like round 2, it's like if I could start scoring an objective, that will put me ahead. That will put me in a good position. Right?
Okay.
So starting round 2, if you can do it, round 3 you need to be scoring an objective 1 per round. And so you need to, at the start of the round, say what public objective am I scoring this round? And my point here is, if you fail to score whatever one you want, you can claim the spend, probably. Like you know what I mean? You can save some money and you're like, okay, I'll go buy the spend one. I wish I had gotten something, that was harder to get. But because I can't, like I don't want to fall behind. I'm going to go ahead and claim it.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so 8 allows you to score secret objective, correct?
Sorry?
I'm sorry. Like there's a lot of rules in this game. So
There are
I
a lot of rules in the
apologize.
game.
So
Imperial.
8 allows you to score a secret objective?
It allows you to gain one.
Gain one. And
yes.
then
You can score during the status phase. You can score 1 public and 1 secret.
Okay. Is there
Optionally.
any mechanism that allows you to score 2 public in a single round?
So Imperial. I should have been more explicit with the way it's phrased. So you can do 2 things with the primary ability of Imperial. The first is you immediately can score 1 public objective if you fulfill its requirements.
Okay.
So that's just baseline. That's a great catch-up mechanism if you've fallen behind. It also, like, at the start of the game, again, there are 2 public objectives revealed, right? And
Yeah.
so,
okay. Yeah.
and at the end of the first round, a third will be revealed.
Yep.
And so that allows you to kind of get ahead in that race. You do want to be a little bit careful because of like kill the leader. You don't want to be too far ahead, but that can be a catch-up mechanism. Then the second thing that you do with the primary is you gain 1 victory point if you control Mechatol Rex. Otherwise, you draw 1 secret objective.
Oh, okay.
So that it does kind of all 3 of those things. Like, but you can't get a secret and score a point off of Mechatol, but you can score a public objective and then get a secret.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And then the secondary, people can spend 1 token from their strategy pool to draw 1 secret objective. So the rest of the table, when you play Imperial, they're like not just letting you get way ahead. They can draw secret objectives if they want to.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so there is a way to score multiple public objectives at the same time.
Yeah, well, I guess the only difference is it's just game rounds. Yes. You know, where I'm going to score it kind of during the action phase. I will use Imperial to score a public objective, and then during the status phase, we will score more public objectives.
Okay,
The only reason that's relevant is in the last round of the game, you can use that to win the game. Because you can score a public objective during the action phase before everyone else scores objectives at the end of the round.
And the game immediately ends.
And the game would immediately
end.
end.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
potentially you can use that to win the game. That's the only reason I'm talking through that nuance.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Public objectives, 4, 4, 2. The first 4 are spend, right? The second 4 are board control. So these are the ones that are hard to get. And these are the ones that if you can get it, you want to base your round on getting this and then claim it. And then because you might lose it. You're probably going to have to reach outside of your slice to claim these. You're going to have to take territory from other people potentially. You're going to make enemies, right? This is going to shake up the game. And so you want to get it, claim it, and then move out. Or you want to use that as a part of a deal, right? You want to say like, hey, I'm going to claim this planet. I'm going to claim that public objective. What's it going to take?
Yeah,
can I
negotiate?
Negotiate,
okay,
right?
Cool.
Maybe there's an opportunity for that. Although generally people don't like giving you victory points. But it can be something like, hey, I'm going to take that. You take this other planet that I own. We're going to go 1 for 1. You'll get to score this objective. I get to score this objective. And now we're scratching each other's backs. And that's totally an okay thing to do. But there's something like, or they are things like control 3 planets that have technology specialties, control 6 planets in non-home systems, have 1 or more ships in 2 systems adjacent to Mechatol Rex. Right? It's be on the board. Own planets, be spread out, control things, right?
Yep.
Board control objectives. The last 2 are technology objectives. These are back in the category of once you can claim this, nobody can stop you. Because they are something like own 2 unit upgrade technologies.
Okay.
If you own that, like you can't go backwards in tech. You can't lose it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you will just claim that on your turn. The stage 2 public objectives are 1 for 1 with the stage 1 public objectives in the base game. In other words, there is spend 8 influence as a stage 1 public objective. Stage 2, it's spend 16 influence.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right. And so they're things like that. They are literally the same wording, just more complicated and typically twice as hard, with the exception of the one that's like in stage 1 that is own systems adjacent to Mechatol Rex. The like complement to that in stage 2 is own 1 planet in another player's home system.
Which is the tile that they started.
Yes. And if you do that,
hard.
Yeah, that's hard because if you do that, they can't claim objectives.
Right.
So they are going to actively stop you from doing that.
Yeah, they don't like. I remember that in our last play. I thought that was kind of fun. I don't remember who it was, but they came in like kind of like behind. I was like fighting for Mechatol Rex. I think you were maybe sitting on one of the other players was sitting on Mechatol.
Yeah.
And like I was in the position to take it, and then someone came in to take my home system. I was like, okay, well. Shit, like I have to go all the way. And then like the other player ended up winning because I wasn't able to threaten.
Yes.
So like that could also be another negotiating tactic. But sorry to kind of derail. But like taking a home system or a planet in the home system is a big deal.
It's a big deal, yeah. And this is why when we were talking earlier about you're not going to score your points from Mechatol, you're going to score your points from playing the game. The objectives are trying to make that happen, right? They're trying to help you get outside of your slice and build your engines and stuff. The secret objectives, interestingly enough, are more slanted towards board control.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like roughly half of them are like have something to do with like winning a specific type of combat or owning certain types of space or owning certain planets or owning systems that are adjacent to other things. Like it's board control type stuff. There are some technology ones. There are some like deployment ones, like have like 5 dreadnoughts in the game. It's like just put your ships on the board and like now you get a secret objective for that. So there are some like that again probably roughly half. They're kind of hard to block, but a little bit. Actually, I take that back. The board control ones. Oh, I was reading my notes wrong, to be honest. The board control ones are roughly half. Then there are like 4 combat ones on top of that. And then there are like 6 of the 20 total secret objectives that are like deployment, technology, and resource-based.
Okay, so kind of a question for you, strategy-wise. So would you recommend drawing secret objectives and then playing to score those secret objectives, or understanding the secret objective decks and just continually drawing secret objectives until you find one that like fits your strategy?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's probably fair to draw 4 secret objectives total,
Yeah.
I think like typically you can find they are accessible enough in the board control and combat ones to where I don't think you're going to have a ton of trouble getting them.
Okay.
And so when you start investing a lot of resources into just drawing ones that fit what you already have, you're action inefficient. Like it would have just been more efficient to go win a combat or something.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And
they're easy enough to just kind of go with the ones that you have rather than hopefully draw the ones that you need.
Right.
Okay.
Especially since so many of them are board control and combat oriented, that they will typically synergize well with the existing board control objectives and the public objectives. Right. So now I'm having a turn where I'm scoring this hard to get secret and this hard to get public. In a single round because I can.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm positioning myself well.
Okay. So that is also good to know. Like. Build your strategy towards your secret objectives rather than vice versa.
For sure. I think the last thing I wanted to talk about victory points wise before we kind of move on, this was a huge learning point for me. So I'm going to share this with you all because I have been entirely playing this part of the game wrong.
And guaranteed you'll win the next one.
If you remember, there are components in the game called promissory notes.
Yeah.
And they are basically an enforceable promise.
Yep.
And so you can include it as a part of a trade to somebody, like I'll give you 2 trade goods and this promissory note. And it'll say something like, at any time, the player who owns that promissory note, when I activate a system that you own, you can reveal that promissory note and say, nah, go home. You can't attack me right now. You cancel that action, basically. That card can also be traded to other people. Like I could trade you my don't attack me card, and then you could trade it to, George, and then I go to attack George, and I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, how'd he get that?
And you don't necessarily know that George has that card.
Correct. Yeah, they all look the same on the back.
I love that mechanism.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun mechanism. One of them is called support for the throne. Support for the throne is, it says if you receive this card, you immediately play it face up in front of you, and it is worth 1 victory point. Okay, so I would give you my support for the throne, right? And it would score you 1 victory point.
I like that.
It then says if you activate one of my systems, you lose the card, and you lose the victory point.
Oh, okay. Okay,
right?
Interesting.
What is almost necessary, or is at least extremely common at high level tables, is to trade your supports.
Oh, yeah. So I give you mine and you give me yours, and we each are +1 victory point at that
Exactly.
point. Okay, cool.
And now we have a locked-in alliance, because if I attack you, I lose a victory point, right? But you don't.
Oh,
because you didn't activate one of my systems. So you keep the victory point unless you come to take the system back or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
So if I claim your home system, you're going to, you know what I mean? You're going to come and get it and lose it too. But if I'm just claiming an outlying planet or something, we're safe. Because I'm probably not going to do that to lose a victory point.
Right. Yeah, it's not worth it to claim just a random planet. Maybe Mechatol. If someone has Mechatol and you have their support for the throne, you may take that. But that's super interesting. I completely ignored all of those.
I have never given someone I'm like, that's way too powerful. Why would I ever do that? And it just never crossed my mind to trade 1 for 1.
Yeah,
just straight up. Just here, you give me. We'll scratch each other's backs. And the reason you do that is because it pushes 2 of you ahead in the game versus the rest of the table, and it is much easier to beat 1 player than 4 or 5.
And it's harder to kill 2 leaders.
Exactly. It's harder to kill 2 leaders. You're bringing someone with you as you pull ahead, and now the target is a little iffy.
Yeah. Okay. So that's super interesting, and you have to be adjacent to someone to trade or something like that, right?
Yeah, but getting adjacent is not that hard. You just have to have 2 ships next to each other, somewhere on the board.
Yeah.
So you have to go out of your way to do it, but it's not over. But yes, at high level tables, if they are across, they will send a ship across the galaxy.
Yeet.
Yeah, exactly. To get adjacent so that they can trade supports.
Okay. So what you're saying is you don't necessarily have to make that alliance with someone that you are adjacent with in your starting position.
Right, not necessarily.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that could help you both, right? Because now I'm only worried about one neighbor.
Yes. And so that's kind of what I was getting at. Because it is a hexagon, as you get closer to Rome, as you get closer to Mechatol Rex, you get closer to people, right? You're more in conflict. And so the constant threat is always from the people to your left and to your right. At least that's how I felt in the game. So if you can basically assure that, hey, we're not going to attack each other, and I can leave very minimal forces on my right side. I can focus on my left side and then, push that way. That is almost more valuable. Probably not, but it seems more valuable than the victory point itself, right? I can focus and I can push my fleet this way because I know this side is safe.
Yeah, and another great way to your point, another great way to use that then is, let's say the dude next to me, he has a secret objective, a board control secret objective he's struggling with, or there's a really obvious public objective. you can say, hey, I see from your position you want this planet. I'm not going to give it up. I'm going to fight you for that. And he can say, man, I just really need it for this and this reason. Okay. I will give you that planet. You will score a victory point off of it. And so I need your support in return. Right?
Yeah.
It sounds like victory point for a victory point, right? That sounds like a great deal, but you didn't give your support away.
You didn't give your away.
So now I can go to my neighbor on my left and trade supports with him. And now I have 2 supports, from the throne. So that's 2 points that I didn't have to go score from somewhere else for 1.
And you're protected.
And I'm protected on both sides.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It can get real interesting real fast when you start throwing support for the throne around.
And so I think even in later game, so if you have a support for the throne and if you traded your supports, right? You also want them to be your main contender for victory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so what I'm envisioning is I'm sitting at 8 victory points, which is never going to happen. But I'm sitting at 8 victory points. I want the person who has my support and I have their support to also be sitting around that, because if they're sitting at 4, then it is back to a kill the leader thing. But if they're also sitting at 7, 8, then it's still this whole like there are 2 people within striking distance. Which one? And it's almost like a kingmaker at that point. But it's a harder decision.
Yeah.
And so it's like if I have a choice to choose someone without my support or with my support, I'm going to choose the one with my support. Yeah. Because I'd rather them be in the running, because I know that there's the other players are going to be split in between who they're trying to attack.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely a social game to that.
Yeah.
Because I think you can twist it. I haven't done this. Like I said, I've never played support correctly. But I can envision a situation where you can look at someone who's at 4 victory points and say, like, hey, here's a free one.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
okay.
You know what I mean? Like, you need to catch up, and you need to catch up any way you can. And so, trade with me. And now, if I was in 4, I don't think I would take that trade for the reasons that you listed. It's like you're at 8. I don't want to get you at 9. Like, you're right. You know what I mean? Like, you're right there. You're going to score, and the game's going to end. But I think depending on how you phrased it, maybe it could be, I will give you this and this planet, which helps you score this other objective. Right. I will give you this plus this many trade goods, which will help you score this. Maybe one of these resource objectives, something like that. So maybe it's a slanted deal, but maybe you can strike a deal and just pick up a free victory point when people are already trying to stop you from getting victory points.
Yeah.
The last thing, it's really not worth touching on too much, but the agenda cards, those like laws that you vote on, there's a deck of 50 of them in the base game. 5 of them have the ability to hand out victory points. Just know that can shake up the game, but don't plan on it. It's 10% of the deck is going to have an impact on victory points to someone, maybe. So you're not going to get like consistent, reliable victory points from that.
Okay, I think that's really good to know, though. Yeah. Like focus on your main, the public objectives, the secret objectives, and the support for the throne cards, and then
you're getting like custodian plus the custodians on Mechatol, and then maybe a Mechatol plus Imperial play to give you an extra victory point. But anything you're doing from those 3 things, from the support, from the custodians, or from the Mechatol point, are just making your basic play of 5-3-1, right? 5 public, 3 secret, 1 stage 2, 5 public stage 1, 1 public stage 2. They're making that easier. You're removing something that now you don't have to do.
Okay, cool. So, I just think that right there is super interesting, and it makes it so that like I feel like I would already be better at the game, just because like I'm not trying to score points from Mechatol. I need to focus on this. This is what I need to focus on. The public and drawing and scoring 3 secret objectives is how you're going to win the game. Yeah, and I think right there already makes me feel more confident in my Twilight Imperium play. Yeah,
so and like we talked about, like it's a hard game to feel like you have direction for.
Yes,
and the secrets and the publics set up your direction in some way, right? Yeah. They're going to dictate, okay, what do I need to be where do I need to be going? What do I need to be doing? Your opponents will kind of dictate the rest of it, right? Your opponents are going to be weak, and maybe that's an area you can like flex into. Your opponents are going to be strong. Maybe that's an area where you need to be ready to negotiate. Your opponents some of them are going to be the leader, and some of them are not. And so maybe that's where you need to. We've talked a lot about this kill. I definitely think kill the leader needs to be something you're prepared for, because it feels like it always happens.
Yep. You have to kind of be sneaky with that win.
Right. Exactly. You need to either be in like second place, ready to win, or you need to be in first place and unstoppable. You need to have a secret objective that can't be stopped,
or the public objective of score 8.
100%.
Something that people cannot take away from you.
Yep. And you're just going to turtle on your home system. And nobody's going to take it from you.
You cannot take this.
And there are a lot of games won like that. It's reaching in Twilight Imperium is hard. It's hard to move across the map. So getting to someone's home system to stop them from winning is hard.
Yeah,
and so
especially if they're very much protecting that home system.
Exactly, especially if they are expecting some people to start striking. If you jump on Mechatol, for instance, and your gameplay is like, I'm going to get custodians, I'm going to score some publics, and then I'm going to like get 1 or 2 points off of Mechatol. I think you're now going to recognize, like, I got victory points faster than other people. I need to be prepared for this kill the leader. I need to back off of Mechatol, make it an easy target for someone else to take so that they don't feel like I'm hogging it. And I need to start retreating deep into my slice and protecting my home system.
Yeah. One more thing before we move off of victory points.
Yeah.
How viable is it to go after someone's home system that is in the lead? Right? If they're a good player, they're probably protecting it fairly well.
Yeah.
But is it worth kind of expending those resources to take that away from them so that someone in the lead cannot win?
Right.
Is that just like reading the board state, or like, do you have any advice or suggestions on that?
I think that's an excellent question. So the first thing is if you're noticing it too late, like let's say they're at like 7 or 8, like they're getting close, it's time to play politics. Right? You are not the only person who doesn't want that guy to win, right?
And politics as in like negotiation.
I don't mean literally the politics part.
Okay, yeah.
Although that will actually be part of it, right? You're going to take the speaker token away from them so they can't take the strategy card they want. But no, you're going to be like, guys, hey, we need to put a stop to this. It is awesome when you can have somebody else commit more to putting a stop to it than you can.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe I go in and like, hey, see that big fleet? Like, I'll clear that out of the way. Then you strike it as home system. Like, if the home system tile isn't out there, like, I don't want to get that deep in his. I'm messed up in this war, man. I don't want
to deal with that.
Yeah. Pit 2 people against you. You guys duke it out. You duke it out specifically with the leader, and I'll just like do my thing. So there's that part if you're like too late. If you're early, then yeah, early pressure can really make a big difference in slowing somebody down. Just making them feel like, I don't know that I can reach for these board control objectives. I don't know that I can pull ahead when this guy, like he's got this big fleet right in striking distance of my home system. I need to be ready to defend myself. I don't know if I'm ready to really pull ahead. So if you're reading that someone's getting close and just kind of putting some pressure on their border and kind of infringing on their slice by a territory or two, that can make a difference. If it's later in the game, it's going to be harder, and like I said, you may need to strike a deal. I think either way, taking out the leader does not get you farther ahead in the game.
That's true.
Right, inherently. So you need to kind of plan out, like, am I going to get some of my board control secrets? Am I going to get some of my combat secrets? Am I going to get this, control planet in their home? Is there a plan here where, yes, I'm stopping the leader, but I'm going to convert out of this. I'm going to convert victory points out of this, right?
Okay. So scoring objectives is very important.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's how you win the
We
game.
agree.
Cool. Okay. Like, I'm ready to play again. But you also brought up a point earlier that's saying that, like, kind of building your ecosystem. I don't know a word, economy, whatever it is.
Civilization.
Like, civilization. Building it up is very important.
Yeah.
So if you can score an objective or start building your ecosystem economy, how do you make that determination of, I need to spend my trade goods building my fleet rather than scoring this public objective? How do you make that decision, or what leads into it? What are the factors that kind of value the victory point versus building up your fleet?
Yeah, that's a good question. So important thing to understand about Twilight Imperium is that you can win the game with no units on the board. Right, and that has happened to us. I don't know if you were part of that game. We had someone win who had a single space dock on the board.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
In their home system?
It didn't feel good to me. But
That's fair.
Yes, it was in his home system, and he had evacuated his home system, and then everything else had gotten killed. But it didn't matter because he could score something and he won the game, right? That's
like really cool. I'm not.
It is. It was a really cool win. At the time, it was like, dang it! But like in retrospect, it was like, fuck, man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so, plastic doesn't win you the game. It feels like it does if you're the biggest and strongest, but it actually doesn't. It's only worth it if you can convert it. For instance, if you have 8 victory points and you have 2 secret objectives, right, that are both combat oriented, you don't need your home system because you can score secret objectives without your home system. Right, and that's a weird
That's
thing.
super not intuitive.
It's not intuitive at all, and like
evacuate.
Evacuate, and it still is probably. In most cases, it would be a poor idea because there's probably still public objectives that you can score or something. You don't want to limit yourself. There's reasons why you wouldn't do it, but just the understanding that if you don't need your home system, why are you defending it, right?
You don't have to. Yeah, you can defend it less.
Exactly.
And maybe even make it a more appealing target for someone to come in and attack, knowing that you have secret objectives and kind of like, trick them a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
So there's definitely a lot of play
fun.
there,
That's fun. That's a lot of fun.
Exactly. And like if you have this big awesome fleet, it doesn't do anything in the back of your territory, right? It needs to be forward. It needs to be converting victory points for you. It doesn't do anything just defending the homestead. And now there is reason to defend your home system. There are mechanisms in the game to get past a screen, right? So light wave deflectors is the top tier blue tech, and it will let people pass through territories that you control to get to a territory that they want to go.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so that's super dangerous late in the game, right? That
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I can set up a screen of like destroyers or low-level ships, but people can just fly through that and get to my home system.
Not good.
There are things to be aware of there. But if you are like political enough, if you're a threat, having your fleet out on the board and doing things, like that's going to convert you victory points in the later game, right? And so when we think about, okay, the early game is probably round 1 and then some of round 2. The mid game is rounds like 2, 3, 4. Again, the game ends at round 6. It can end at 5. It can go long into 7 if people are killing the leader, right? So 5, 6, 7 feel like the end game. And so into 5, 6, 7, you are definitely not spending resources on ships and stuff anymore. Like what you have, it feels to me, it's like what you have on the board. You know what I mean?
That's what you got.
That's what you got. And if you have nothing else to spend your resources on, absolutely build more ships. Like take control and do whatever you want. But like if there's a chance to just buy a victory point instead, then just buy a victory point. That's
Right.
a way better use of your resources at that late in the game.
Are there any objectives that would reward having multiple ships or a certain type of ship on the board?
Not of the publics.
Okay.
So there are secrets. There
are secrets.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't have those,
Right.
what you got is what you got. Score your public objectives using your trade goods rather than spending them on on new ships and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a good. This question kind of brings us into resource management a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good place to go because there are, there are like 4 maybe main types of resources in the game. Technically, I think there are 3, but there's a 4th that feels like it. So planets have 2. Those are the base 2.
Those are the 2 I thought of. So
Yep.
I'm excited to hear the other 2.
Trade goods are the 3rd that are just like the
That
wild
makes
card.
a lot of sense. Yep.
And then command counters are the 4th.
Okay. Yeah.
But you get command counters by spending influence, which is another resource, and so
Yeah.
that's why I say it feels like 4. Technically, it's 3, but influence and resources. Influence off the bat. First of all, when we're talking about resource management, influence is undervalued. Influence is used because it's not used to buy plastic. It's not used to buy units.
Yeah.
Resources are used to buy units. Influence is used to buy command tokens.
Which are like your actions, right?
Right, that's your
Or
actions.
fleet size or
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. You use them for 3 things. You use them for determining your fleet size. You use them for taking actions on the board, and you use them to spend for the secondaries of the strategy cards.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
So that's why I said that, like, really there are 3 things to talk about because influence just converts directly into command counters.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Influence is also used. It's the resource that you vote with, and that can be extremely powerful and game changing depending on how votes go. So you just need to be prepared to participate in that.
And that's in like the politics phase at the end of the round.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's agenda phase, I think is what it's technically called.
Yeah, I think it is.
But yeah, I think 50-50 is a good place to shoot for in balance between influence and resources.
Okay.
Influence, the great thing about it is influence can be used, essentially can convert into resources if you need it to, kind of.
How so?
Okay, because...
Please explain.
Yeah, right. When using influence, for instance, you can refresh your commodities off of trade. That gives you more trade goods. Trade goods can be resources, right? There's this roundabout way to turn your influence into trade goods.
Okay.
Influence can be used to... I'm trying to think influence can buy action cards off of... Again, when I say influence can buy, I'm meaning influence can buy a command counter. Command counter can be spent from strategy to buy action cards. Action cards can let you deploy things for free or get basically open up avenues to get victory points that you didn't think about.
Got it. Okay.
They can be. It's how you draw additional secret objectives, right? It's how you put space docks on the board so you can like build more things. It's
Turns out also, fun fact,
Yeah.
that's where you produce units.
yes.
And you produce like double the space dock or something. What is that rule?
You have a production capacity. So there's production capacity and there's production cost.
Yes.
Production cost is I sum up the cost of all my ships and I spend that in resources.
Yeah.
Production capacity is I can build a number of units equal to the resource value of the planet plus 2 if there's a space dock there.
So that's a rule that I forgot.
It's a nitpicky rule.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember.
It's a hard to remember rule, and I played my entire second game not remembering that rule.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what lost me the game. No, but like that is really good to kind of know and remember. It's a nitpicky rule, but like use that to your advantage, right?
For sure.
So, so like I say it in jest, but also it's like that's where you produce that and like that's where you can build your fleet. So like space stocks are like the long-term investment, right?
For
Like,
sure.
It's not fun to buy,
Right.
but it's gonna help you in the future round. So sorry to kind of like make jokes.
No, you're
but,
good.
like,
It's a good note. I think the last thing I want to say on influence is, remember I said there are 4 spend objectives?
yes.
They are spend influence, spend resources, spend trade goods, spend command counters.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So influence is kind of doubled up there.
Yeah.
Because you're spending there's one for spend influence and there's one for spend command counters.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Resources can only be converted into ships. That's it. That's all it can be used for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So resources, I know that I'm doubling up on the term resources here, but it's because like the thing that you produce with in Twilight Imperium is called resources, and so I'm kind of doubling up on my terms here. But resources, they can be used to buy like spend so many resources to buy a objective. They can be used for that.
But they also help you get to 50% of your secret objectives, right? Because you need the plastic on the board to score a lot of.
That's
those
very
secret-
true.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So they will convert indirectly as well. They also I said units is the only thing. They buy tech. That's the other thing that they buy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that one's a little 50-50 because if you're using the secondary of technology, you have to spend 4 resources and a command counter. And a command counter is 3 influence, so it's kind of like 4 and 3, so it's a little bit half and half. That's why I didn't list it as like the only thing. But there isn't really a way to convert resources back into command counters. Or back into influence, I mean.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of a one-way street. I think that's why it's better to be 50-50, because if you don't have enough influence, you're screwed. If you don't have enough resources, you can,
figure it out.
You can figure it out. You're going to buy slightly worse ships, but as long as you threaten right and make the right deal, you're going to be okay.
So if you have to go more influence rather than the resources, which is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Do I want to, like, if I was going to go 60-40 in one direction, I think I have gone, if I was going to go 60-40, I think I have gone resource heavy in the past. And I'm learning, again, this is another learning point for me through my research in preparation for the episode, that I think that might be a mistake. So I want to play a game where I lean influence heavy and just kind of see how that feels, that I have more actions now, because I'm able to buy more command counters. I can spend more on the secondaries. I can draw more action cards. I just feel like I'm doing more. That's what influence lets you do. Like, resources let you have ships. Influence lets you do things with them.
Having more influence rather than resources seems very non-intuitive to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a game that is Twilight Imperium, that it's positioned as this let's go fight each other game. It's like, I need resources rather than influence, and so it's kind of an interesting thought to, like, maybe that's not true.
Yeah,
like let's get more influence rather than the resources. So okay.
I also think my gut tells me that in the end game in round 5 and 6, when you have the technology that you need, you don't need to buy more. You have the units that you need, you don't need to buy more. My gut tells me influence is more valuable in the end game.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
I think resources is more valuable in the early game, and influence is more valuable in the end game.
That makes sense.
That's my gut.
Yeah, okay.
So
cool. This is like flipping the game on its head for me, at least. Like, it's exactly what I did not expect to win the game, which is also why I probably never win the game. But
awesome!
Okay.
That's so exciting.
Good. So my favorite thing in the game is tech, right? So and it seemed but like you said only like 20% of the objectives are tech. So should I like not focus on tech? But it feels like
no,
it
you
feels
should
like
focus,
the tech races should be like are better, like inherently better in TI4, right?
Yeah, I believe. I don't just believe.
think
I have
so.
data.
I don't remember the race, but I think it starts with an L. That's what I remember. So
who do you think that starts with an L? I don't know. There is the Universities of Jolnar is the they are the tech race.
Yeah, there's an L in that.
There is an L in that. There's
that's actually the one I was thinking of. I don't know why I thought it was an L.
There's Letnav as an L, L1Z1X as an L. Doesn't matter. The University of Jolnar is the tech race.
Yeah.
Generally considered like the strongest. Now, the races are relatively balanced, but again, like, they are asymmetric, and I think because in competitive play they can be drafted and things, and they do sometimes require specific setups to like be playable, or if they're in a specific situation, they might just overall be bad. In the current like TI4 base game, Universities of Jolnar, the tech race, is considered the strongest race.
Okay, so why are they considered the strongest race, and yet they have very few public objectives available to them?
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating. It's mostly because they can be flexible. Technology in the game will let you score objectives in weird ways. Now, you have to be able to convert it, right? You have to be able to buy a technology that says, I have a plan in mind to get X objective, or this is opening up X objective. Maybe it's the yellow cards or yellow text that are helping build your economy. right? So
Right,
they're making you
okay.
more efficient with your resources, so you have surpluses of resources, so you can buy those spend resource things cheaply. Maybe it is blue tech that is letting you reach across the board. It's adding to your movement. It's letting you take. There's the second to last blue tech is basically lets you take 2 actions in a single turn. Right?
Damn.
Single use of that, I can take Imperial. I can then claim Mechatol Rex and get a point off of it in the same turn.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? So it starts
that's
to
a clever use of that.
It is a clever. So you can start to open up these options. Light wave deflectors, again, the highest level blue tech lets me move through my enemies and capture home systems or things that are in the center of their slice.
Sneaky attack.
Sneaky stuff. Have them turn around. It maybe again board control objectives that is very forward in the secrets and in the public objectives. Red and green techs are they're basically going to open up. The main thing I think that red and green techs do is they open up unit upgrade techs.
Okay.
So like green techs, they do weird things with like ground forces and they give you more command counters and action cards. All of that in the low levels, all that can be helpful. The red techs have like different ways of making you more combat efficient. That overall I think is not going to win you the game, except that a lot of the extra movement and specifically extra capacity comes from the unit upgrade techs. Extra capacity is extremely important. Capacity is saying how many ground forces and fighters can I move. Right. And so if you are holding up in your home system, you got like 10 ground forces, right? That's a hard shell to crack. I need a lot of ground forces of my own to be able to like compete.
Kill that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's on Mechatol. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's like skirmishing, right? Maybe it's all of a sudden my cruisers can carry things. All of a sudden my dreadnoughts, which always like could carry things, like now they move too, right? So now it's like I send a dreadnought and a single ground force that he can carry. He bombards the planet and kills your ground force, and mine walks in free, right? So now my dreadnought and a single ground force can go claim objectives for me. He can just get me a victory point by himself because he has the movement.
It's very efficient.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that tech is so good that Dreadnought 2, all it does is increase the movement 1, but it's an extremely expensive tech. It has 3 prerequisites for it. So you need 2 blue techs and a yellow tech before you can buy that unit upgrade.
Okay.
And that single movement is it's that strong. And so the Jolnar can upgrade their cruisers and their dreadnoughts and their carriers, right? Carriers now move 2 and carry 6 things, right? They can get gravity drive, which is just an absolutely, like, honestly ridiculous kind of broken tech. It's the second blue tech, so you need 1 blue tech in order to buy it. You need anti-mass deflectors, which is like the basic blue tech, and it's basically just a tax. Anti-mass deflectors, you don't really need to win the game. But Gravity Drive says after you activate a system, apply +1 to the move value of 1 ship during that tactical action.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Now
that.
my dreadnoughts move 3.
That's a lot.
And it's a lot. That's like...
How far are you from Mechatol at the start of the game?
3.
Yeah, okay.
You are 3. The other way to think about it is you are playing on a hexagon that is... If I'm in a single... Let's say I'm on Mechatol Rex, right?
Okay.
And I have a movement of 1, I can reach 6 systems.
Yes.
Right? If I can have a movement of 2, I can reach a total of 18 systems.
Yep.
And if I can move 1 more, I think it's 30 if you have a movement of 3. Like
That's
you're
dumb.
reaching like basically... So it's
Everything.
not
Yeah, almost everything.
Right, exactly. It's not a linear growth. It's more of an exponential. I don't know if it's literally exponential. I think it might be.
Close to.
It's close to.
Yeah.
And point is you're opening options, right? You're becoming more flexible. It's like, how do I get this objective? There's a couple ways. And that's why Jolnar are good.
Okay. Right. So tech doesn't inherently score you points, like Jolnar or other tech, or just having tech in general.
Right. Necro's the same way, right? They're kind of the other tech race where they can steal tech from other people.
They steal tech from other people. It opens avenues for you to score the traditional points.
Exactly.
Rather than scoring points inherently.
And it makes it harder. The other way to think about it is it makes it harder to stop you.
Yeah.
Right. I can see there's this public objectives that says score or own 6 non-home planet systems, right? Or not non-home planets or something, however it's phrased.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm looking at Jolnar, who have dreadnoughts that move 3, and I'm like, I cannot protect every planet in this system from them. Right. They're gonna take it if they only need 2. They're just going to take it.
They're just going to grab it.
Yeah.
And
so it makes you harder to stop. It makes you more flexible. I would say in the meta right now, and this was another learning point. I kind of knew it, but it was good to reinforce it specifically. Blue is bar none the strongest of them. And it's specifically because of that increase in distance and flexibility that the other techs just don't add. Also because anti-mass deflectors is kind of a tax. That one, it lets you move into asteroids or through asteroid fields. Most of the time you can just go around them. So it's like it's helpful, but it's not. Gravity drive is a game-changing tech. Like no matter what, even if you're not going farther in blue, especially if you're a new player, you should get gravity drive.
And remind me what that is real quick.
That's the one that lets 1 ship move 1 more.
Okay.
distance. That's
Yeah.
the one that says my dreadnoughts now move 3.
Yeah,
Right? Or a single dreadnought moves 3.
Or I can grab a reinforcement from somewhere where you wouldn't expect, or something like that. Okay.
Or my carriers now, my single carrier can move 3.
Yeah,
right.
And we can
that
drop
can be important
a lot
because
of ground forces.
yeah, maybe he's coming from my home system, right? He's coming
Yeah.
from way in the back, and I built him and just like 6 ground forces last turn.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to move my main fleet that's like 1 off of my home system. I'm going to move that 2 spaces, and then I'm going to catch my carrier up. Gravity drive makes that happen.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So blue is the strongest.
Yes.
Is there a weakest? Is there one that I should completely avoid?
No, I don't think so. I think after that, it's going to depend on your strategy. Like, I think the main thing is probably going to be getting specific unit up. I think here's the way to think of it. You need a way to, before gravity drive, you need a way to move infantry 2 spaces. You need something that can move 2 and carry infantry with it. That can be cruisers, that can be dreadnoughts, that can be carriers, that can be war suns, right? But not counting the bonus from gravity drive, you need to have something that can move infantry 2, because again, that gets you to that with gravity drive. Now they move 3.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Or maybe I have flank speed. There's an action card, flank speed, that just adds 1 during your movement. Right.
Yep. Okay.
Now my thing moves 4. That's crazy. I can move to the other side of Mechatol. I never need to move that far, but like I have the option.
You can. Yeah. Right.
Or all of my ships are moving 3 or something like that. But that again, if you're using flank speed to take your carrier movement, or your dread, or whatever you are using to move your infantry around, if you're taking that to move from a movement of 1 to 2, you're too limited. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You don't have enough options.
Yep.
So I think on your tech path early
Because
in the
it's
game,
not linear. It
exactly.
is,
Exactly. So I think on your tech path early in the game, you need to figure out, okay, I'm going to get, especially in your first game, just assume I'm going to get gravity drive. It's just too good not to get right now.
Yep.
So let's just say base game, I'm just going to get gravity drive somehow. Which unit upgrade am I going to get to allow me to carry infantry, again, base movement 2? Because I know I have gravity drive. I know I have the ability to move something with 2. Now I can move 3. Flank speed, I can move more if I need to. I have options. My options are opening up. You're setting yourself up kind of for success.
Okay. Yeah. So
the reason I was saying none of them are bad is because like red tech will take you into War Sun, right? Being spread across the techs of like, I think you need like a yellow, a green, and a red to get cruisers. I don't know why I'm saying I have it right here. I can just look at it.
So I want to bring this up now. So
Yeah.
I've heard the rumor that War
right.
Suns are not worth it. Is that true?
I mean, if you
They're
want to
really
have fun,
cool.
they are absolutely worth it.
So they're the fun upgrade.
I mean, I think so, yeah.
Like, how often in a competitive sense are you going to be building War Suns?
I think not often. The main reason is they just require a lot of tech. Again, if we are assuming that I'm getting... War Sun is an all-in strategy. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And
there's a race that does it, right?
Yeah, there's a race. There's a race. Actually, that's a really good point. In my tier that I was talking about, that's again, it's kind of a data-driven list of. We can talk a little bit of numbers here. Like if I take a 6-player game, and my base like win percentage would be 17%.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
1 divided by 6.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Then I guess the way you can think of it is from that, weighted from that.
What's your variance?
Yeah. What's your variance?
Okay.
And so. University of Jolnar, this is taken across, let's see, how many games is this? Excuse me. This is taken across 5,500 games. So
okay. I like heard 55. I was like, oh, okay. 5,500. Oh, that's different.
That's a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
5,500 games. University of Jolnar wins 29% above their
Wow. So plus
average.
12.
Plus 12? What do you mean by plus 12? I don't think you're wrong. I need to understand what you're saying.
They win 29% of their games, which is
Oh, no.
12.
No. So they it's like if I took 17% and multiplied by 1.29, that's how many times they win.
Okay.
You see what I mean? Like 29%
higher
than they're expected. And the reason it's done that way is because not all the games in this spreadsheet are 6-player games. So, you know what I mean?
Okay,
in this
okay.
data set, they're like 3 or 4. So it's just it's taken as an
makes sense.
average above like what their expected was.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Embers of Muat are the race that start with a War Sun. They're like the
Right.
War Sun
Yep.
race, right? They are minus 33%.
Yeah.
Right, so they're instead of winning 17%, they're winning like whatever 2/3 of 17% is. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Which is unfortunate because I love Embers of Muat. Like they start with the War Sun. Like
Yeah.
that's fucking badass.
That's so cool.
It's like come fight me, man.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they have to like go get the War Sun technology in order to upgrade it to Movement 2, and that is extremely limiting.
Yeah. Okay. That
and-
makes sense.
And also in order to build more, so they like just have their one starting one, and if they lose it, like they are just on par with everybody else except for they're slower.
Yeah.
Honestly, you will have a lot of fun doing War Suns. You can throw them around. They have capacity 6. You can take any planet. Everybody's scared of you. You know, they just
badass
require
mold.
a lot of technology to get there. They are the most efficient way to turn your resources into like just combat value.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if you have
Okay.
excess,
Yeah.
if you have like excess, well, actually, I guess that's technically not true. The reason I say they're the most efficient way to turn your command counters into combat value because they're this enormous amount of firepower in one unit, right? So it's a low fleet supply, and you only have to move like one unit, and you only have to build one. So it's very efficient in that sense, but it takes a ton of technology to get there, and so it's a very late game strategy.
Late game, yeah.
But
So
yes, like
it
University of Jolnar can go get
Yeah.
they can go get War Sun. I mean,
That's fair. So it's probably not. It's probably not your main strategy, right? Like you have to be scoring victory points. You have to be doing things that build your base. And if you focus on War Suns and you're not at 6 points after 4 rounds or whatever it is, you're gonna have fun. You're probably not gonna win.
right. Now in a 14-point game, that's probably a little different. You have a little more time. You
Okay.
can build a couple more
Yeah.
technology. You can probably get there and make a viable strategy out of it. But in terms of like fleets, I've heard really good things about getting destroyer upgrades. And so destroyers are like the cheapest unit that is not a fighter, and
Yeah.
they have the anti-fighter barrage.
Oh,
they carry
okay,
the
yeah.
most firepower for their resource value.
Okay.
Like just strict resource value, but they are expensive in the sense that you have to have a huge fleet supply to support them. You have to move them all around with command counters, right? So it's very influence heavy strategy, low resource value strategy, but they are efficient in that sense. You can also have high fighter strategies. Those are really powerful.
I've heard like rumors or thoughts about
Yeah.
this, and it just seems hilarious.
It does.
to me.
It is really fun. It's like the concept is I build like 3 carriers that are upgraded. I pack them with like 18 fighters, and you can shoot at me all you want. Like you're only killing half a resource worth of stuff, right? And like they can shoot on like 7s, and you get them upgraded, and they can I think get to 6 if you're like the Sardak Nor, which is
Yeah.
like a 50-50 shot. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of firepower you can like tech them into, and use the right action cards and have the right racial powers and everything. So Nalu can do that. They have like a bonus to their fighters. That is it can be very resource intensive in that you need a high production capacity, right? So
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
you need like you need an Abaz and Freya or something that has like resources of like 5 planets, and maybe I can put 2 space docks on them and get them upgraded. And now I have something like, what is that? 13. I can get to total production capacity in this like single system. I can build 13 things.
Yeah.
But
And if they're upgraded, if they're with a specific race, that's formidable.
it's formidable, right? But it is influence cheap because it's a low fleet supply, right? I only need to support
Yeah.
like
Okay.
3
Yeah.
carriers,
Yep.
so like that's cheap in that sense. So high in production
that's
capacity,
interesting. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Low in influence. The medium track would be some combination of like dreadnoughts upgraded to dreadnought 2, plus like maybe some destroyers or maybe some like cruisers or some you know what I mean? Just kind of like a mixed bag of stuff that can. It's going to be like a medium level fleet supply, a medium level capacity. It can be maybe a little flexible, so something in the middle there. And Warsun just has trouble kind of competing against any of those 3
Yeah.
fleet builds. If
Okay.
that makes sense.
That makes sense. So we've talked a lot about Jolnar. We've talked a lot about other words that I don't quite remember all the races, but like
Yeah.
okay, so like
fine.
asymmetrical player powers.
Yep, it's a
by
big
no
part of the game.
secret, and it's part of the game. It's by no secret probably one of my favorite mechanisms in all of board gaming.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. We've talked about that Jolnar is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's probably the strongest in the base game, which is what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
But like, what are some of the other maybe stronger and or weaker races that people need to be aware of when they're looking at the game?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, again, we're talking about versatility. We're talking about the ability to be able to flex into whatever secrets you get dealt, whatever public objectives flip up, right? Do I need to play for Mechatol or not? Can I score these random things in corners of the map? So people that are good at that, we've already talked about Jolnar, like you said, because they have the tech to do it. The Hassan, the like Space Lions, the trade people.
Yeah. Okay.
They are good at it. And it's literally just because they have like the power to negotiate. They could just, they can go out and buy, like, first of all, they're going to have a shit ton of trade goods. So those 4 like spend objectives, they kind of feel like gimmies. They kind of feel like freebies to them, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So like, I
Yeah.
have 8 trade goods. I'll spend.
I can do that.
Yeah, I can do that. So they have that, but then they have the power to run the game, to have that soft power, that business, that politicking, of, hey, let me do this and I will, I'll give you this many trade goods, hey, you know what, go fight him. I will give you this many trade goods just to fund your war. I'll just give you 8 trade goods to go fight that guy.
Yeah.
Like they have the power to do that.
It almost feels like you have to be a fairly strong political player.
Mm-hmm.
and you can pull the strings. You can
Yeah.
be Geppetto. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, the puppet
You
master.
can make it work. You can make it work. So
Yeah.
okay, that has been a race that I've always wanted to try.
I think you would love them.
I really do. Yeah.
I think you do well at the focused strategy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The
I want
just
to
let me
ignore half of the game.
Exactly. Let me just play this out to
Yeah.
its end. And so you would play Hassan. You would take trade like every time. Hassan are the only people that can trade action cards. Super interesting.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hey, come here. I got this action card. I know that you want to do this. I know.
Yeah.
I got a little something. You know.
Yep.
Let's talk about a deal.
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, you can do like, hey, Hassan's at the table. I will trade. Me, Dalton. I want to give Nelson this action card, but Nelson, neither of us are Hassan. Hey, Hassan player, I will give you this and one trade good. On your turn, give the action card to Nelson.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you're the Hassan player and you hear these things, right, you can start to keep your eyes and ears open. Like, where can I pick up a trade good here and there? Just making deals for just oil in the machine.
Yeah.
But along the way, you're taking your cut.
Yeah, it seems like something that you would be also really interested in because they're
I love
so
Hassan.
flexible.
They're so flexible,
And,
dude.
and you can almost flex into any strategy, which
Exactly.
makes them very strong, both for the secret and the public objectives. Because you
sure.
don't necessarily know what's going to flip up, but you also have the resources and the trade goods that you can use to fill almost any of those.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
Hassan's really cool. Okay,
sure.
so what
They're
else?
good.
What else?
Soul is good, which is actually kind of funny because they're like the humans. They're just like the dudes.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
like
yeah.
from Earth, and the reason they are good. So they have the best carriers in the game. Like they have a specific unit upgrade carrier that can carry 8 instead of the normal 6.
That's a lot of fighters.
Yeah, it's a lot of fighters. It's also a ton of ground forces. They have a really great stall mechanism.
Okay.
Stall mechanisms are rare and beautiful in the game. Where let's say I have leadership, right? You need me to activate leadership because leadership is the strategy card that lets you convert influence into command counters.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's say I have leadership, but I have a couple extra command counters. Soul can spend one from strategy allocation, just spend a command counter to place 2 ground forces on a planet they control. That's their turn. Just stall. Right?
Which is probably a lot better than what it sounds like.
It's a lot better than what it sounds like because all of a sudden you're out of turns. And you
Yes.
have to pass. And once you pass in the game, you can't come back in. So now I activate leadership.
Okay. Yeah,
Right?
so it's not necessarily getting the ground forces. It's really just like waiting people out.
Exactly.
okay.
And like the ground
That's
forces
good
are
to know.
fine, but it's a resource inefficient use of. I mean, you're taking 3 influence and converting it into essentially 1 resource
Yeah,
because
yeah,
ground
yeah.
forces are 2 for 1. So, let's say also maybe I have Imperial and I want to make a play at Mechatol and I stall everybody out, right?
Yes.
And now I take Mechatol and then I activate Imperial
then you can score.
Everybody
Yeah.
has passed. Nobody can stop
okay.
me, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
stalling and it doesn't take place every round, but in 1 or 2 rounds in the game, it'll make a big difference.
Got it. Okay.
So they just have there are several races that have good stalls, and they just happen to be one of them. And then beyond that, they are the ground force people. They're just hard to take things from. And a lot of the game is, board control. They're good at taking the board, and they're hard to take it back from.
Yeah, they're annoying.
They're annoying.
Like the Arborek, right?
Right. I think Arborek, we've both talked about Arborek because we both love them. They're the plants. Like they're a
Yes.
sentient plant, which is already funny.
great.
They have a gimmick where they don't need to produce from space docks. They can produce off of their infantry. So they have this really funny like ramp where they dump a bunch of infantry onto the board and then all of a sudden they can create like
Yep.
1,000 ships from them. So they are really positioned well for like a fighter strategy where they have like so much production capacity that like that's just not a
That
problem
makes
for them.
a lot of sense. I probably should have done that. Yeah.
They're like you have to know the game they're like a mid-tier complexity.
Yeah.
And like my data says that they are like mid to low. I think they're probably mid, but listen to data, not Dalton. What is he know what he's talking about? But I think part of it is that they have a hard tech path. They are very strong at the start into green, and there's not a terminix to green. Like there's not an end game that works. So they have to like kind of it feels like they are strong if they start with a blue tech planet or something that like lets them kind of flex a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
There's just you can't just do mono green as a tech strategy, and they're kind of set up to do that. So that's a disadvantage to them.
Got it. Okay.
I think the big 3, Jolnar, Soul, Hassan. Oh, we didn't talk about Clan of Sar. I think Clan of Sar is better in high level play. They're basically their like gimmick is that they're nomads and they don't need their home system to score public objectives.
Got it. Okay.
So like in high level play, they're really valuable because you just can't be stopped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the rest of their stuff is like fine, but like that is just such a big.
You know what
deal.
you want, and people can't take it from
People
you.
can't take it from you. Like that's big enough in like
Yeah.
high level play to where it's
That
important.
makes sense, yeah.
At our level, like it's not going to make that much of a difference.
Cool.
I think some of the like ones, if you're playing for your first time or playing in your early game, people that just have like straightforward, easy to understand strategies, Barony of Letnev, they will help you build big fleets and just bully people with them. So if you want to play a bully game,
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, Barony of Letnov, L1Z1X are the Dreadnought people, and they're kind of in that territory too, where they're good at bullying people. I love playing Mentak Coalition, who are the pirates, and they can like steal trade goods from other
I hate
people.
the pirates.
Oh, pirates are so fun.
They were so annoying.
They are good because like people feel like they can't stockpile trade goods, and when they can't stockpile trade goods, it's harder to score the spend objectives. So they sort of indirectly prevent people from scoring those, which is really nice.
Yeah.
You
I was
basically
next
just have
to the pirates, and it was horrible.
next to the pirates is tough.
Yeah.
I would say probably in your first game, don't play Necrovirus, but they can be one of the most rewarding races to play. They're the ones that, like, if you take something from somebody, then you can, if you kill a ship from somebody, even if it's just like a fighter, you can steal a technology from them. And so, like, that's just really fun to play.
Hilarious.
Nalu do really well. They have something where they always have initiative 0.
Yep. They always go first, right?
Yes, they always go first. And so that can be huge, especially in high-level play. Again, that can be really strong. They're also just naturally set up for a fighter strategy that's really fun. So those are, I think, some of the ones that, like, Hassan, Sol, they're very straightforward. You know what to do. Jolnar, it can be hard because you have to know what tech to get in order to convert into what, you know?
Yeah, you kind of have to understand the game to make them efficient.
Right.
That makes sense.
So, but there are like I said, there's like 16 or something races. It's hard. We didn't want to use this to go through all of them, but just to like talk through, so you're looking for synergy. I think especially early in your career with probably just your play style. What if you just aren't a good negotiator, then don't take us on. Like that's not going to be a strong position for you. Go for Barony or Sol or something that's a little bit more independent and just hard to fight, hard to deal with.
That makes sense.
If you want to be the sneaky dude, take the Isaro, who are like the spies and do weird tricksy things. So they're like basically Gollum as an as a stellar race, like
right.
And I think if you love the tech tree, play Jolnar. Yes, they are the best race, but like at a table with your friends, it's not going to make that much of a difference.
Oh, okay, that's good. That is really good to know. It's not like you're taking the OP race, right?
Right, okay. Exactly. Especially because it is a social game and there is kill the leader effect in play. You know what I mean? Like you're going to take the best race. Like maybe you're putting a target on your back. Maybe you don't want to do that.
Yep.
So a little bit of play there.
Awesome.
Have you learned enough?
I have learned a lot. So
we got through like 75% of my notes.
Oh, damn. Okay. Okay. Well, this is going to go on for long. No, I
think we're wrapping it up.
No, but like, honestly, like, all this conversation just made me want to play Twilight Imperium.
Dude, I want to play so bad.
So it's a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
Right now, like we're hopefully at the tail end of this whole pandemic thing.
I know, right?
So maybe we can get some people around a table and play again because it's not a game that I necessarily really want to play online, like over TTS or something. Because
the automation, I've done it. The automation is nice, but if the game is not natural to you, it's hard. It's hard to play.
Also, I feel like it's hard to really play like a political strategy over virtual.
For sure.
So I just really have enjoyed this conversation, right? Like it's kind of opened my eyes, and like I have new paths and new avenues that I want to try through my next play.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that that's going to be something that we can try soon.
Yeah. I would love that.
But yeah. So any closing remarks before we finish this guy up?
No, I mean, I would say closing remark is that it's like I'm so thankful that I got the opportunity to talk through this game. Like I feel like we've been kind of like saving it. Like, hey, when are we going to do Twilight Imperium? For like a year. You know what I mean? Like this has always been like the goal for me to like, okay, let's dig into this.
Right.
Like I said, there is more content, but I think that's okay. I would rather probably at this point now we can do other games.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I've checked the box.
I
talked about Twilight Imperium, and it was an absolute blast for me. So
I'm really glad.
Thanks for letting me do this. Nerd out on this game.
Thank you for doing this. It really opened my eyes to like the strategy
for sure
and all of that. So we're gonna have show notes.
Yes.
So big. We
we'll
covered a significant amount of content in this episode.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you want kind of like a refresher, you can listen to the episode again, or you can go onto our website, which is fantasyandsomeflights.com, and find the show notes.
Yep.
And that's going to kind of outline a lot of the talking points and everything. Dalton's going to do a great job with those show notes. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, you always do. Other than that, we can be reached on a lot of social media platforms, the main ones being Instagram and Discord.
Yep.
So if you want to talk to us about Twilight Imperium strategy, if you're really excited to play, if you want to play,
Yeah.
join our Discord. We can set a game up.
Oh, we have plenty of people to set up a Twilight
Yeah.
Imperium game up on. Like Nelson won't play, which is totally fine. But yes, there are several. I mean, we could get a 6-player game together on Tabletop Simulator pretty easily. So.
Yeah, so there's a lot of avenues forward. But yeah, so reach out to us. You can find our Discord on our website. So when you're looking at the show notes, it's going to be in the top right corner. Go ahead and just click on that Discord symbol and you can join. Instagram, we are Fantasy and Some Flights. You can reach out to us on Twitter. We're at and Some Flights. And
character limits, man.
yeah, character limits. One short.
Is it really? I don't think I remembered that.
We can do Fantasy and Some Flight.
Just one flight.
One flight, which is not the case, obviously.
We want to be true to ourselves.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to reach out to us. We love talking with you guys. So please reach out. Talk to us about Twilight Imperium.
Yep.
Go play some games when it's safe. I don't want you to do it if you're uncomfortable or anything. But go play some games with the knowledge that you've learned today and let us know how it helped you. Because I love hearing the success stories. I love hearing stories from you all. And so let us know how Dalton helped you win that game, and please contact us for a refund if you did not win the game. So
That's right. We will direct you to talk shit about your friends. Inc.
Yes. Yeah, we'll give you their contact information. So it was great talking with you. I really enjoyed this episode.
Great.
Just because I had no idea, and I feel like I understand this game a lot more now.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
I really appreciate it. Cheers, dude.
Yeah. 4 cheers.
4 cheers.